In this video, I'm continuing my journey on visiting every U.S. county and capturing the best moments on my camera. Today, I'm making it to my 6th county in just 3 videos with Pima County, Arizona. Pima County sits on the United States-Mexico border, covering just under 9,200 square miles, making it the 6th largest county in the state and the 28th largest in the country. To put this sheer size into perspective, this is larger than 4 U.S. states, or even more impressive, larger than Delaware and Rhode Island combined. Just over 1 million people call the county home, which is the 2nd highest in the state and the 44th highest in the United States. Even with this, most of the county is desolate and has little to no people for much of Pima County. Most of the population sits in the Tucson metropolitan area, as Tucson is home to 500,000 people itself, which is the largest in the county and the 2nd largest in the state. Tucson is one of the best cities I've ever visited, as it's beautifully located around several mountain ranges. It has amazing food, beautiful architecture, and is one of the most culturally unique cities in the United States. Some of my favorite spots is Centennial Peak, or A Mountain, in the west of the city along the Santa Cruz River. You can drive to the top of the mountain, where you'll find beautiful views of Tucson along with that stunning mountain backdrop. Culturally, you have the San Xavier del Bac Mission, which is my favorite building in Tucson and is such an icon in the area. It was created to serve the needs of the local community of the Tohono O'odham Reservation, as it still does to this day. Another beautiful building in Tucson is the historic courthouse of Pima. Inside, you have cultural exhibits from the area, along with the Gem and Mineral Museum. Marana is the 2nd largest city in the county to the north of Tucson, followed by Oro Valley, which is also in the north, Sahuarita, which is to the south, and in between this and Tucson is South Tucson. You also have the small community of Ajo that is in the far western reaches of the county, with the Tohono O'odham Nature Reserve in between. It is not hard to get here with plane access in Tucson, which hosts an international airport along with other regional airports. Interstate 10 comes into the county from Phoenix to the north and New Mexico to the east, along with Interstate 19 coming from Mexico to the south. You also have Arizona State Routes 85 and 86 in the far west, along State Route 77 coming in from the northeast. Pima sits within the vast Sonoran Desert, which is considered a hot desert that covers portions of the American Southwest and the Mexican Northwest. This desert is a bit different from surrounding deserts in the region, as it provides subtropical warmth in the winter, along with 2 periods of rainfall, which leads to an unexpected but welcome plant life. Notably, the endemic species of the Saguaro and Organ Pipe Cacti, which both can be found within Pima County. Pima is also quite diverse when it comes down to elevation. The county gets below 1,000 feet in the west, all the way up to the 91-foot Mount Lemmon in the northeast. With these sharp changes in elevation, you can get from the desert ecosystem of the low elevations to the mixed conifer forest that you would find up in Canada in the higher elevations. The county is filled with multiple mountain ranges around the urban areas, along with more isolated ranges in the western portions of Pima County. Arizona has 3 national parks, and Pima County is home to one of them. Saguaro National Park, which is home to over 2 million saguaro cacti that surrounds the city of Tucson on both sides. This 92,000-acre park is home to amazing hiking, beautiful scenic roads, and is split into 2 different sections. Saguaro West, or the Tucson Mountain District, is the smaller section of the park, and it boasts a more dense forest of saguaro, and they are often younger. The top-rated trail on all trails in this part of the park is to hike up the Wasson Peak, which is the highest point in the Tucson Mountain District. Standing at 4,687 feet above sea level, there's multiple ways you can get up to the peak, but I would recommend doing the Kings Canyon, Hugh Norris, and Golden Mine Loop, clockwise or counterclockwise, which will give you the ultimate views of the park. This loop is just under 8 miles with nearly 2,000 feet of elevation gain, and is my favorite hike of the whole entire park. For something shorter, you can do the Valley View Trail, which is under 1 mile long and takes you out to an overlook that is really ideal for sunset. Saguaro East, or the Rincon Mountain District, is the larger, more elevated, and has the less dense but older saguaro cactus, which tends to be taller. This section of the park is great for multi-day hikes that takes you up and around the highest peaks of the park. One trail that I like to do in particular is the Tanque Verde Ridge Trail that eventually takes you up to Tanque Verde Peak. While going to the summit would take a full day or 2, you can hike along the ridge for as long as you want, and the whole time you're going to get stunning views. For something shorter on this side of the park, I would recommend doing the Micah View Trail. The trailhead is right beside some suburbs, but it gets you up and close to a ton of plants, and you just may stumble on a rattlesnake, just like I did. Don't let this deter you from doing the hike because they don't want anything to do with you. Just watch your step when you're hiking. Now, you would think that this national park covers most of the saguaro cactus that you see around Tucson, but that's just not the case. The Tucson Mountain Park is bordered to Saguaro West to the south and is also completely filled with young saguaro cactus up and down the steep slopes of the Tucson Mountains. The most popular spot in the park is the Gates Pass Scenic Lookout, which is great for sunset. This lookout gives you absolutely stunning views of the valley to the west, along with the steep Tucson Mountains, and all it requires is a short walk from the parking lot. Now, the physical geography doesn't end here, as the county is also home to portions of the Coronado National Forest. This massive forest that is spread out throughout the mountain ranges of southeastern Arizona and southwestern New Mexico and covers notable spots like Mount Lemmon. My grandfather was once stationed in southern Arizona when he served during the Vietnam War, and he used to always tell me about driving up to the top of Mount Lemmon. I finally got to check out what the scenic drive was all about, and it does not disappoint. First of all, Mount Lemmon is the highest point in Pima County and the Santa Catalina Mountains, sitting just over 9,100 feet of elevation above sea level. The scenic drive is about 27 miles long as it ascends 6,000 feet up to near the summit. You have several spots to pull out and take in the views, with the Windy Point Vista being the most popular. As you drive to the summit, you will notice the fauna changing right in front of your eyes, and that is because this drive is the ecological equivalent of driving from Mexico to Canada due to elevation. The desert floor has warm winters, but the summers are unbearably hot, with triple-digit highs lasting for weeks at a time. The best way to escape this heat is going up to Mount Lemmon because the temperature is typically 20 to 30 degrees cooler at the summit. Up here, you have the southernmost ski resort in the contiguous United States and a landscape that receives more precipitation than the desert floor, with snow sticking around up until summer. Near the base of these mountains is something that I would have never expected to see when visiting southern Arizona: a waterfall, and a decent-sized one at that. The 80-foot Tanque Verde Falls is a seasonal waterfall that drops water coming from the high reaches of the Santa Catalina Mountains, and is one of my favorite spots in this county. My fourth U.S. state park that I've shared this series is the Catalina State Park, which sits at the western base of the Santa Catalina Mountains. This park is home to a diverse range of plants and bird life, and is a gateway for many trails that go up into the Santa Catalina Mountains, which lie within the Coronado National Forest. The Romero Canyon Trail, which takes you up to the Romero Pools, is about 6 miles round trip and is a perfect example of one of these hikes that start in the park but ends in the National Forest. The first section of the park gives you front row seats to the Santa Catalina Mountains as they rise over the valley floor of Catalina State Park. These views get better and better as you make your way up into the mountains until you reach the seasonal Romero Pools. This is a great spot to go for a cool dip after a long strenuous hike while taking in the mountain views. Even certain times of the year, you will get some mini waterfalls that are in the area, so it's always cool to see something like that, especially in a desert climate. A very overlooked spot in Pima County, and a spot I almost missed, is Ironwood Forest National Monument. The park possesses one of the richest strands of ironwood in the Sonoran Desert, and even with this unique nugget, the park is pretty unheard of, so it's a good spot to get away from the crowds. This spot sits northwest of Tucson, right on the edge of the county line, and gets you into an area of the county that, for otherwise, you would pay no attention to. Although it says National Monument, the park is actually protected by the Bureau of Land Management and not the National Park System. You have a handful of hikes around this park, with the Waterman Peak being the one I chose to do during my visit. This 1 mile hike is pretty uneventful until you get to the end, where All Trails has to hike in at the eastern slopes of Waterman Peak. From here, the app will no longer be a guide if you want to keep heading for the summit, but me, the views at this spot was good enough. There's some states that don't have much things that you could do just in the Tucson area alone, but we still aren't even done with notable spots in the county. If you drive 2 hours west, you will make it to one of the most unique national park sites in the country, with Organ Pipe Cactus National Monument. Like the saguaro cactus, the Organ Pipe Cactus is endemic to the Sonoran Desert, and in this park, there are tons of them. Now, first of all, driving 2 hours and still being in the same county is absolutely insane and unheard of. On this drive, you are not going to see much at all as you travel across Arizona State Route 86 through this nation reservation, which I'm having a hard time pronouncing, so be prepared for that. Once you make it to this very remote park that is also along the Mexico border, you'll be immersed in a desert oasis that has more plant life than human life, in a place that seems like should have no life anywhere. While I was here, I did the Arch Canyon Trail, which is about 3 miles round trip. You will drive the Ajo Mountain Scenic Loop that takes you to the trailhead, which is honestly just as good as the hike, just without the overlook anymore. This overlook gives you stunning views of the park and the valley floor and really gives you the feeling of being tiny among the massive Arizona mountains. There's double arches that you're able to get over to, but I could not figure out how to do it, so good luck with that. If you make it over to it, it looks like it'd be pretty impressive views. You also want to pay extra attention to your surroundings around here. You want to do this with any hike, but especially anywhere in this park, as you're right on one of the most desolate spots of the United States-Mexico border, which is not completely void of people crossing the border in this area. There are also signs that serve as a reminder as well. One thing about being a massive county is you have a ton of room for random things in the middle of nowhere. For Pima County, you have the Kitt Peak National Observatory. This observatory hosts one of the largest collections of astronomical instruments in the Northern Hemisphere. Sitting in this reservation, once again, it makes absolute sense for a massive telescope to be here, as light pollution is pretty much non existent. The drive up to the observatory is quite similar to the drive up to Mount Lemmon, as the road winds up the Quinlan Mountains to Kitt Peak, which sits just under 7,000 feet of elevation. You could spend a whole day here with exploring the observatory and finishing the night with a sunset atop this beautiful mountain. You also have 2 remote national wildlife refuges in the county, with Buenos Aires National Wildlife Refuge and Cabeza Preta National Wildlife Refuge. Buenos Aires National Wildlife Refuge is situated on the eastern side of the Quinlan Mountains and is home to a wide variety of animals and plants. There is no question that you'll see birds flying through the flat land that goes on for miles. I drove on the scenic loop that takes you through part of this refuge, and there are birds everywhere. Among the birds, I also got to see some white-tailed deer, but they were way too far for me to get a picture. With Cabeza Preta National Wildlife Refuge, the most important thing to know is you need a permit to access the grounds. I did not know this beforehand, so I wasn't able to fully go within the park, which was a bummer since I had to head back west, but I was able to capture this American kestrel, which was the first one I've ever seen right outside the park boundary. This video covered every single thing that I did in the county, which took me about a week or just under. This still is one of my favorite places that I've ever explored, and there's still so many things left that I didn't get to do. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and a subscribe to my channel. It helps so much and is the key to me accomplishing this huge feat of capturing the best moments in every U.S. county. Stay tuned as I slowly make my way up north through the great state of Arizona.